And now for the main event, Janine. Thank you so much. Janine has put together this event for us tonight, and Janine will introduce our topic for us tonight. Thank you, Janine.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. I'm very excited about this presentation. We have a great panel lined up for women in product management and why we need product managers. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Gloria Rismondo, and she's going to be our moderator tonight, and she'll introduce herself and have the panel introduce themselves. Gloria?
Thank you, Janine. She really did a lot of hard work, and I think put together a great panel and a great event. So say thanks to her afterwards if you haven't already. My name is Gloria Rismondo, and I am in product strategy and innovation at Global Payments. And I, was led into product management from the marketing side, actually. I had experience in marketing and in the account management side of our business, and moved into product management and have loved it and basically have been there ever since. Also, did some other types of roles to try to kind of add to my experience in operations and technology. I will, if you guys cannot start to hear me, please wave your arms or yell or something back there, because my voice is quickly leaving me today. So this microphone is great. So I'm very excited to be here today to moderate our panel of product experts who happen to be women. And I will now ask them to introduce themselves and talk about a little bit about what led them into product management. So,
excellent.
Alejandra?
I get started. Can you guys hear me? Perfect. I just realized that I wear a lot of blue. I just pure coincidence. So I'm Alejandra Park, VP of Product at Tony Run. But first thing, thank you for having me here. I'm a big fan of the Women in Wireless. So how did I start in product management? So I am an engineer by training, but I started as a consultant, IT consultant, but I slowly made my way through different roles such as project manager, program manager, and an agile coach. I worked in several industries, but I spent most of my career in the technology industry. I worked for startups and big organizations such as Coca-Cola. Through that opportunity, I got to travel abroad, mainly in South America and Europe, and quickly realized that no matter the country, no matter the industry, no matter the size of the company, we're all facing the same issues. How can we build products fast that actually meet market demands? So that's part of what I do in my current role. But I primarily support team of engineers, data scientists, and UX and UI designers, and help them go from ideation to execution to build products. So this involves the overall strategy, concept generation, and product commercialization into the market. Nowadays, I'm very interested in how to influence about 6 million people. That's the segment that we're targeting. How to influence them to change the way they think, change the way they behave, how they make their choices, and their habits. So we're disrupting the construction industry right now, and the way we create our technology it has to be different because we're targeting a different segment. So that's basically what I do.
Thank you. Holly?
Testing. All right. Hi, I'm Holly Jewell, and I'm a product leader in global sales ops at NCR, National Cash Register Corporation. I obviously, as you can guess from that, lead sales enablement, right? What are tools that enable our salespeople to sell the products better, interact with customers better? But similar to Alejandra here, what started me into product management was something very different. It was a passion for helping customers. I originally started back in a financial institution that's actually nearby here in Norcross, and led from customers to the customer experience. And then that led to a passion from the customer side to a passion for the products. And then really just how we interact with things and experiences as a whole. And so it's important, I think, to think about that it's not specifically, you don't have to be an expert perhaps from an engineering background and you have an expertise in one field, because it starts with, in my path, it was customers, then it was payments, and then payments led me to just a passion for products and for revolutionizing experiences, and how do we make that better as a whole. So that's my path.
Hi, good evening. My name is Stacy, Maude, and I head go-to-market and commercial product strategy for Alevon. I think anybody would tell you that my passion is driven by the transaction. So understanding how a transaction drives customer behavior, how it drives shopping and consumer behavior. I have about 16 years of supporting financial institutions through merchant services. I am a Canadian who has relocated to Atlanta. This is my second year, and I have come to be a passionate product leader through 15 years of doing consumer and CPG marketing, and a lot of the assets and tools that we use to execute good commercial go-to-market advertising and CPG has really led me to managing tools that drive media or digital transformation and transaction. So that is how I came to working in this type of industry, and it is driven by an agile process as well for me. I run and deliver commercial products in an agile governed work, and I spend a lot of my time working with other tech leaders, but I face off against all business lines, so it means my day is never the same twice.
Denise? Okay. Hello, everybody. Good evening. My name is Denis Olivares, and I lead a product team in a health and analytics company. So we work with data, we work with advanced analytics like AI, and we're looking to find ways to bring insights to a marketplace to help drive prediction of disease and conditions that are chronic or ail people, and find ways to improve health and mitigate those conditions earlier and better. My background, actually, I started in insurance, and I fell into product development because I had a curiosity, I think, for things. And you'll hear tonight a lot about the day of a product developer or a product manager. And we tend to be passionate about something. It could be customer experience, it could be a business-to-business marketplace, channel development, communications, and technology platforms. But the point is, there's a curiosity that's driving something. And what we like about what we do, I think, is that we get to work with all sorts of industries and all sorts of functional experts in whatever types of fields we're in or whatever types of products we're in. So I fell into a product design area in insurance. I loved the variability. I loved understanding the regulations and the complexity of the products. And over time, developed abilities to learn about platforms and customer experience and bring those products to the market in a way that engage people and keep them connected to the company and the solution that's important to them. So looking forward to the conversation.
Kevin.
Hi, my name is Kevin Pitts, and I'm a product manager with Alevon. I am specifically working in the payment processing sector with Alevon, which is a subsidiary of US Bank. Think about the point when you stick your card in the chip. The payment processing is, of course, the swipe and the tap as well, but some of the big industry changes that are happening currently that I'm a part of is really advancing the technology. As you see, many businesses have the card reader that says chip coming soon. And part of that is to protect you as a consumer, but there's a great deal of technology advancement that's happening through, as you all know, the industry of payments, and the security is becoming a bigger and bigger conversation every single day. So that's the sector specifically that I work on, and whatever the point of sale is talking to the device that does that, I lead the teams that do all the technical details and behind that, but basically make everything flow as it is. I got my start in product management, honestly, because someone believed in me. I had a foundation that I built by myself with taking on, I was in a customer care role. 2008 happened. The market crashed, and if you were in a role at that point, you were going to be in that role for a long time. We didn't know how long. Those folks that were in the working environment at that point, you know. And so I was, at the very early stages of my career, and I knew that I loved helping the customer and I loved understanding what they needed, but I really needed to do more. This wasn't my forever. And so I started asking for more. And thankfully I had leaders, not only my direct manager that said okay, but also leaders within the organization, specifically in product, because that's what I liked, that I got to do on-the-job internships. There were projects happening overseas where the U.S. wasn't doing much, but the international markets were, so I got international involvement in product management, acquiring companies, and that gave me a foundation in product management. And then there was an opportunity where a product team was being developed in the Agile space, and as many of you know, technology is moving into the Agile development because we can really move things quicker to market. And so it was an opportunity that I didn't really quite know was what it was, but it's led me to where I am today, and ultimately getting to work customer facing with understanding their requirements and bringing the payment industry, which is a new industry for me over the last 6 months. Previous to that, I was with Career Builder, so human capital.
Thank you. This is a great example of how you can come to product management from a variety of places. Just even our panel today came to product management from engineering, customer care, customer focus, marketing, insurance and regulation. So that's, I think, one of the beautiful things about product management is that it really is an open field that brings and attracts all kinds of different talent. And it's great that we have that represented here in our panel today. And so the next question that I have for all of you is, what skills and talents do you think are needed for success in product management? And specifically, kind of, if you have a particular trait that you're kind of known for, and what that is, and how that has made you successful in product management. We'll start at the other end this time with you, Kevin.
Yeah. So for me, it is no for now. It is not no forever. And so as we continue to ask the question, what is next? What are we doing? How do we bring that to market? If we absolutely continue to understand why we're doing and present our vision of why, no becomes yes very quickly. And so continuing and taking the skill of digging into why we're doing what we're doing to help turn those no's into yeses helps us be the best product leaders we can be.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think that a tremendous skill that you can have naturally or you need to work on if you want to be in product is the ability to go from the big picture to the detail and back to the big picture. And I think someone said earlier that the day is always different. And for me, because of the curiosity, I really do enjoy all the different things and the variety. And what happens is we spend time promoting our product and driving our vision. And very often you'll go from a detailed meeting with business analysts or technology folks who need concrete answers, and you have to be specific and clear. And then an hour later, we're talking about vision, or we're helping someone prepare a board presentation. And then 2 hours later, you're back to some of the details. So it's very exciting. It challenges your brain to make the switch, but it keeps the interest very, very high. And it's a lot of great excitement and variety for that single day.
I think for all the skills that I have that I use every day in product management, the one that I probably touch the most is relationship management and managing people who are not direct resources, or they're not business partners that are aligned with a commercial delivery for any number of business lines. Being able to relationship manage off cycle when I'm not in the middle of a product release is the one thing that makes product releases a whole lot better. The quality of them, the timeliness of them. I'm pretty sure that my colleagues would say that I can pull in a favor just about anywhere. And it really comes down to knocking on doors, coffee chats, really favorable support around documentation, jumping in on other product owners who maybe don't have the skills required in their team, and really being a good collaborator across the business. And so for me, I think that's the one thing that I touch most every day that is reoccurring.
Well, Stacy stole mine, but I'll just reiterate.
They're going to have to go back this way to keep me frustrated.
Right. But I would just reiterate that, and what I would say is that product development is a team sport, and that's an important thing to remember. As product managers, to Stacy's point, you're usually the indirect leader versus having managerial authority over the people you need the most to do exactly what you told them to do to execute success, right? So it does come down to being engaging, dynamic, being the fun person, right? And building the relationship and establishing trust. And trust is a huge part of it, along with just having that rapport with people. So then you can call on them. I know people that I can call at like 11 o'clock at night and ask them to get back online to do something for me, right? It's about having that relationship. And that really requires us as product leaders to get out of our ivory tower, right? And so that's important from the customer perspective, but usually we associate that statement with, hey, getting out of the building, right? Get out and talk to your customers. Don't be in your ivory tower. But it's also internal. Don't just sit in your office, in your box, and do what you need to do and talk to your teams. Always be thinking of that other thing. I hear sometimes, product people talking about, well, I don't interact with that team, or I don't know that person because I don't need to. You never know what you don't know until you know it. My dad used to say that, and it never made sense to me until, I grew up and I worked in product management. And all of a sudden it became very clear, because you don't know what you don't know until you know it. And that's that you didn't need that person any day up until now, but tomorrow that is the most important person you could possibly have a connection with. So always be thinking and looking for those opportunities. I think that's a great point.
Very good.
Yeah.
Alejandra?
So I think I'm just going to break it down into two pieces, because I think they are essential. So one will be the technical skills, and the next one will be the functional skills. So for technical, what I mean about that is that you gotta have a strong understanding of technology. It is hard to lead people if you don't know what it takes, if you don't know what you have to do. And also, when I mean technical, it means that you gotta be creative. You gotta be able to imagine things that are not there. You gotta be able to come up with different ideas. And now if we go back to functional, I'm just mainly referring to leadership skills. And for me, it comes down to three main things, which is setting up a vision compelling enough that your team can follow. Then you have to motivate your team, right? Have to allow for communication across the board. And finally, you gotta get it done, right? So you have set up a vision, you're measuring results, but you have to get it done. So it comes down to execution. And for me, I think someone already said it, is going from the big picture to a morning agenda, being able to test, try, and perhaps come back to something you have built before. And I think that's what the skills that it takes in short.
Excellent. I kind of saw a few common themes, and some of those are also echoed a little bit by, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Marty Cagan. He is a very well-known product management consultant on the West Coast. He started the Silicon Valley Product Group, and he does a lot of speaking engagements, and he produces a blog and has written some books around product management and technology. And it was interesting because he recently did a blog post about why women make good product managers. And his reasonings were that women tend to have more humility and a balanced ego. They put the product first. They don't take it personally. If someone has suggestions for the product or changes to the product, they can take that feedback and implement it into the product. Another one is emotional intelligence, the ability to really engage constructively with all the stakeholders and really be an advocate for the product. And I heard several of you echo that in your answers as well. So I think that's probably one that resonates with you as well. And stamina is another one that Marty Cagan observed. And from the standpoint of the ability to persist over time and really problem solve over the months or maybe even sometimes years that it takes to get your project out, to get it going. And I think we were talking earlier that, was it your product? Or maybe it was, Kevin, was it your product has not quite gone out yet, but it's getting close, right? And and you know, and as she's talking about it, she wasn't discouraged, you know, so I could see clearly that she still had the stamina to make this happen and get it out there and go. Any of those three other points that you guys can add to any of those three? Any?
No, go ahead.
I think from an emotional intelligence, this is something that I've spent a lot of this last year really focusing on my soft skills with people. And it's not so much my soft skills of dealing with people, it's knowing when to back out of a situation and ride it out for a little bit. I've been doing this a long time. I often have the answer. I don't want to be the answer in the room. I want to let them drive to a result. And often it's the same as where I see as landing, but it drives a different level of collaboration when people feel like they brought it to the table and they've done it themselves. And I think that takes a lot of soft skill. It's a lot.
That's also humility, I
right?
think, too.
It's a little warm and fuzzy. And also on the flip side of the warm and fuzzy is my patience for not being engaged and just being a rider instead of being a leader is really short. And so I've had to really put a lot of focus around let people fall down for their lack of participation or their lack of engagement. So I have spent a lot of time on soft skills and really just having the emotional intelligence to deal with different types of people. I really, my friends will tell you, I can compartmentalize morning, noon, and night, good, bad, different, and the ugly, and it doesn't ever bother me. They don't transfer in between each other, but I've realized that I'm a lone rider often on that mindset that people take stuff home with them and they carry it for a long time. So I've had to work really hard at having more empathy and backing out of a room when necessary and stepping out when things are tough. It's really, really helped me a lot with people when they get to the answer on their own. Interesting. Anyone else? Any additional observations?
Well, I would add that in product, what I like, it plays into a couple of your themes, is that ideas come from everywhere. So it's the person on the front line, the customer service center. It's the salesperson. You have internal, external salespeople. It's going to be the competitor. It's going to be the developer in the room who never did say anything for the last 6 months and then has this great idea. And to be the keeper of the product list and all those future ideas is really exciting. So I welcome all of that because I think there is humility in knowing that there are ways that the product and the suite can be better, and these ideas can come from anywhere. And it's fun.
Yeah, good points. Well, Marty Cagan observed, he wrote this blog post in particular because he observed that he did a presentation on the top traits of product managers, and someone observed to him that all of his examples of good product managers were women. And so that prompted him to think about really what were the common themes that these women had, that he held them up as examples. So that's really interesting. I would like to flip this question now just a little bit to the other side. I think we brought up some good points in this last discussion around what traits do women possess that naturally make us good product managers? I want to flip that over and ask if any of you have any thoughts around what traits make it more difficult for us as product managers, as women, and giving us areas that we maybe need to work on a little harder. Anyone have any thoughts on that?
All my traits are fabulous.
Likewise.
Okay, so much for the humility part.
She's going to take that one away. She's totally taking it away. I do think there is something with women that, and maybe it's something you grow into. I think for myself, it certainly was. But about being both being outspoken and not being afraid to put yourself out there, right? So I think it is important to sit back and let the team accomplish goals together, or let other people in the room have the idea, or feel that ownership around something, right? But there's also a need to not be afraid to put yourself out there, and to open it with humility. I think I ping people a million times a day, or I start every meeting with, hey, so dumb question. What if we didn't do any of that and we did this crazy other thing over here? And sometimes those are great ideas, I'd like to say. There goes the humility again. But sometimes, more importantly, it sparks a conversation, right? And the conversation is really the most important thing, because you get people talking, you get people thinking outside the box. So I think as women, sometimes it's not that we're afraid to be the voice in the room, but it's hard to kind of crack that ice, right? Or we tend to, kind of let someone else take that lead or be the first one to speak. And, I challenged myself a long time ago, because I'm actually, you wouldn't know it perhaps, but I'm a very shy person. My nickname growing up was Mouse, and I used to hide behind my dad's leg everywhere I went, and he'd have to pull me out crying to introduce me to people. I'm like, no. Until the day I realized that it was less scary if I'm the one that introduces myself to people than letting you come up to me. So now I'm pretty I apologize, probably in your face. So I'm like, hi, Bill, I'm Holly. It's good to meet you. But being willing to put yourself out there, right? Just go with it. Walk into the meeting and be like, hey, guys, and just, really take ownership of the conversation.
And I think to add to that too is, as a product manager, the face of every product, you really have to be consistent in your message and deliver that. And we've heard that from all of the panelists as they've talked through, what it is. But sometimes second guessing yourself behind the scenes, I think women do that naturally. And you will always think, could I have done it better? Should I have done it better? Should we have released that before we released that? And I think we are our own worst enemies when it comes to that. And I challenge myself sometimes when I get into that circle to say, if I spent less time doing this to myself, what could I really do? And so I'll share that with you, each one of you, to, as you get into that, if you second guess something that you do, to think that as well. Because you were put in that position for a reason.
Go with your gut.
Well, true. Though sometimes I think the second guessing trait that we have helps to make us perfectionists a little bit, which produces good products, honestly. But you're right; it's a good thing to temper and make sure we don't take it too far.
And I think one of the other things is ensuring, you can. When the title of the panel came across and I was asked to join, I thought about, well, what are all those products that women never gave feedback for, that women have to use, that just are horrible? And the first thing that came to me that has, I'm a mom of 2 children. I have a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old, and sorry for the guys in the room, but the breast pump, it hasn't innovated in years and years and years. And the first thing I could think of was, did a man create this product? And did they ever ask a woman, or did they just hand it out and say, we've got this great new tool and we'll put it in hospitals and that's how we'll go to market? And that's how they got it.
Beta test it.
Right. So being aware of your audience as well.
And Gloria, I'm just going to add one more thing. I think also comes down to the ability to take risks, right? I think sometimes women, we're afraid. But building products is hard. Like, you got to be able to imagine things that are not there. And that you have to take risks, right? And by doing that, you also have to own it if you actually make mistakes. And you're going to make mistakes. But guess what? You're going to learn more from that. So yeah, to your question, I think it's the ability to take risks. Yes, we gotta be able to just be bold and go for it.
I agree with that a lot. I mean, from my perspective, one of the best attributes that I bring to a product team or a project team is I'm not the second guesser in the room. I'm like caution out the window, and I'm the facilitator of people. I really want to facilitate people to go right out through the top of the building. Like, just, if we had all the money and all the technology, what would you do with it? And get them in a room and being able to facilitate them. And I think there's a common language that you can bring to a group of people like that is a crossover between being a technical product leader and being a commercial product leader, and being able to do the translation of the business. Because I think that's where some of the best work happens, when you're in collaboration and facilitation of good product management.
And this isn't necessarily to the point, but to tie into what you said, that's, I think, why, from my perspective, I love Agile Development as a methodology in software, because it lets us be willing to take that risk, right, and fail early. Failure is not a bad thing. How many times did Edison try to come up with a light bulb before he got the ones behind us, right, that work? Like, a lot of times. But let's take that risk, take the leap, and I'm going to age myself here. Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. I love that scene where he just walks out on a beam that's not even there. So just go for it.
Several of the comments that we were made here, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't second guess yourself. Go ahead and take the risks. Go ahead and be bold. It's very interesting that those kind of all fall into similar categories for how we could improve as women product managers. One question that I'm going to go to now, too, is how do we get more women into product management? And Kevin, I'm going to call you up because I think that you made the comment of you became a product manager because someone believed in you. And I think that's a good theme to maybe start with, is how do we pay it forward and get more women into product management?
So back to my background, I started asking for more within my organization. And so I think as leaders, we have to look within our own organizations for the people that have started taking the initiative, right? I asked to be closer to product. I did everything that I could to be that customer care liaison between product and the customer voice to get that feedback back to them. And so I'd like to, encourage each one of you to look within your own organization to find that, and to the new product or aspiring product leader or product manager, continue to strive to make your voice be heard, that those are the things that you like and you want to learn more about. We certainly have degrees that we can choose that are getting us closer to product management, and product management as a field is being established more as a recognized area at the executive level, and in the C-suite. Is even, the chief product officer is really becoming more rampant in more companies. And as we move towards technology, it will continue to have a footprint within all of our organizations. But I think we have to continue to look within and within our schools.
So let me ask sorry.
I was just going to say, I'm a grassroots movement kind of pusher.
She's a pusher. You heard it.
I'm a pusher. I'm a dealer. I'm an advocate. I'm an advocate for women in general. But, I thought about some of my stories on my way here about my own team and, previous teams, is pushing people to advocate for their work that nobody sees, that's really the underpinning and the architecture of what we do, and nobody gets to see it. Like, if you don't send just a highlight note that says, hey, look at how great this is, it doesn't give you pole position anywhere. Nobody knows that those great things are happening. And I think you just have to be an advocate. I think events like this drive women into I think it's events like this where you can actually talk in a forum is what drives women to make decisions about career change. I was in CPG for 15 years and I was like, oh, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to go do fun stuff. I'm going to unpack technology. I'm going to brainstorm and think tank with other women and other men. But I thought about my story to come here, and I don't know about y'all. I work in a very diverse organization, but my journey to product management has been surrounded by amazing men and amazing women. I mean,
Very true.
Some of my best champions have been gentlemen who are advocates for the way I operate and have given me motivation to get involved in this type of work and in this type of business, and still my mentors today. My movement is, hanging out with Georgia Tech kids in our internship program and hanging out with them and giving them the real skinny on having a corporate product job and really telling them how it is for real, not the fluffy HR corporate handshake job that people want you to believe it happens. I had to go home today to get dressed to come and see you all today because I was in jeans and flip-flops and pigtails. So it's a real job and it's tough sometimes, but I think you gotta advocate for them at the street, not just in real formal ways. I think this is the type of forum that people want to get connected and network. I know networking is such a word, but I think when you have real dialogue with people about what opportunities are ahead of them is really where the rubber hits the road of engaging more women to be in product management. It's not about their degree. It's not about that. It's about what level of stimulation and intelligence that they can bring and be good collaborators. Products are not built by single people. They're built by groups of people. And if you just sit down and you're like a stump, it's not going to get you very far.
I would just add on to that, and I like your point, Stacy, that it's not just women, it's everyone, right? But to the point of how do we get more women into product management, I think it's on all of us that are in that field. I mean, it's, to your point, it's a rough job. There's a lot. Like, I had a boss that was a gentleman that believed in me, a long time back, and he said the job takes what the job takes. And similar to my dad, I really know what that meant. Or I wouldn't have taken the job. But it meant sometimes it's a 60-hour week, sometimes it's an 80-hour week. You just don't know. It takes what it takes. But there's so much that we're responsible for that could fall in your space when you're the CEO of the product, right? There's just so much. But at the same time, empower people, right? Look, instead of you having to do all of these things, where are there abilities and things that need to get done that you can push on to somebody else, right? You can let them take that task and own it and run with it. You can delegate in a way that's positive, and what you're doing is you're training them up to have that skill, right? That ability. And I encourage all of us that are in product to look within our organization and see where's there someone, maybe it's a BA, that you look at them and you realize that they could be a product owner. And so all of these kind of where you maybe for budget reasons don't really have someone in that role or whatever, and you're kind of having to double dip and wear all these hats, where could you enable them to do some of that stuff for you? And maybe at first that's informally, but then making sure that gets recognized so then the company can see that, hey, this person can move from being a BA to being a product owner, right? And then that's a step into product, right? So really thinking about those, and we're doing ourselves a favor, right? Because we're passionate people, but it's not the only thing that we can be passionate about at 10:30 at night.
This isn't actually a product.
Wait, this is a G-rated conversation, right? Sorry.
This is a comedy show.
Denise or Alejandra?
Yes, I would like to touch on that. Yes, more than bringing just women in the organization, I think about bringing diversity, because we create better things by bringing different teams, right? Different types of people. Mm-hmm. So, but with that in mind, I'm actually happy to say that not too long ago I was working with, of course, all the engineers, and they were all males. And recently hired 3 females. The interesting part that I found here is that only 37% of women graduate with, let's say, engineering degrees. So if we go back to statistics, the numbers are low. So we're wondering why there are not that many women in technologies, because they're actually not studying that kind of, degrees. So, but what can we do to actually bring them to the field, right? Like, let's say they're studying, engineering or computer science. What can we do to actually bring them to work in technology? And I think it comes down to mentoring. And when I mean mentoring, it's just not like finding someone, who has a higher level, higher role than you, but also being able to find peers and just, you can always learn from them and from people below you as well. So mentoring, I think, at least in my career, has helped me a lot, not just in technology, but I try to find mentors in different sectors. So for me, it comes down to mentoring, find a good mentor who can lead you to where you wanna get.
Very good. Denise, anything to add?
Just because I know some folks are here tonight who are looking to get into product, if you're not already in product, that's part of why you might be here. I would recommend you talk to a product leader that you know, or grab one of us after the meeting. A good product manager will talk to you. And I've hired people in a product team where my boss said, that's not a good fit. And lo and behold, they have gone on around and above me to be fantastic product leaders. I find engineers with a certain work style and a willingness to speak up are very great talent to bring from a pure engineering development role into a product team, even if it's not a heavily technical product. So if you're like that and you want to get into product, don't be afraid to ask a product leader for some guidance and some tips. Customer-facing folks, a call center representative who helps you change the deductible on your auto insurance premium can very, very well over time get into a product leadership and run the entire suite of personal lines insurance products. So consider talking to someone and learning a little more, and volunteer to help on things if you have a little bandwidth, and you'll I think see some doors open.
I think customer care people make the best product owners. I mean, they have seen the worst of the worst in people. I mean, it helps them drive a different level of product outcome.
Well, but they also know how things work, right? They're on the front line. They have to actually explain what that ingredient description is on the back of the package, or
How did your checking account get overdrawn?
Exactly. Overdrawn. Yes, I can explain that word to you. Here's what. Yes. So it's fantastic.
Right. And I think all of those points that you guys made are extremely important, because there is not a university major for product management. You can't go to school and major in product management. And you heard that everyone here came to product management from a different area. And so very often I think people who might be interested in product management just don't take that step because they don't think they're qualified. And but in a lot of cases you really are, just like you said, by understanding the customer or understanding maybe the technical aspects of how the product really works. And so, yes, I encourage you to think about what they all said here, and talking to someone, and if you're already in product management, to mentor others to move into product management. Very good. Well, before we take audience questions, I'm just going to do a real quick lightning round. So our lightning round question is 1 or 2 words answers on what is your advice to the new or young product manager. Lightning round, we'll start here with Alejandra.
Excellent. I would say be curious. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And also be a leader, right? It doesn't mean that you have to lead great amounts of people. It really becomes to like be an example of for everyone. And lastly, be bold. Take risks.
All right.
I would say focus on your customer. If you focus on the customer, it will lead you to the right path. And with that, but at the same time, don't be afraid to challenge that, right? Make sure that you're not just doing something and putting it on your roadmap because you're blindly following something a customer asked you to do. Make it blue. Understand the why it would be better if it's blue. What's the real problem we're solving? And not letting a customer define a solution. Let your solutioning team, your design team do that, but really get to the meat of the problem and make sure that we really validate it, right? Why is it a problem that it's not blue? What have you done up until now when it wasn't blue, right? Understand all of that before you take that and try to implement it into your product.
Be a forward thinker. to be curious, but be a forward thinker, and be a great collaborator. Be willing to sit at the table with as many people as you can get your hands on until you are sound in your thinking.
And I would say, make sure the people that you are interacting with and that you're bringing to the table are different from you. You don't surround yourself with everyone who thinks the same way. Find other disciplines, other career-minded folks, other non-career type folks and disciplines and functions, and speak and interact and really listen, and you can come up with some awesome things that way.
And so a little bit different to that is make sure you have a mentor. I think we've all said it, but I'll wrap it up in a nice package, and not just one, but many, and make sure you define what that mentorship is for. If you go into it and ask your mentor specifically what you want them to teach you that they're an expert at, they can really be impactful for that mentorship. And the other thing is data is powerful. It helps you make decisions, and we really haven't talked a lot about it tonight, but make sure that if you're a new product manager, that you understand the data around your product, and if you haven't already facilitated a way to get that, start thinking about how you can do that today with the development of your product so that you can really defend the decisions that you're making and know how to move forward. You're the product manager because data isn't the only thing that can answer that question, but it helps give some guidance.
I love data.
Excellent, excellent. So now we will take questions from the audience. Does anyone have a question? Okay, so the question was, for those who are not familiar with the product terms, what is the difference between a product owner and a product manager? Anyone want to start with that?
I'll take that and then pass it to Stacy. It may depend somewhat on your organization. I do find that different companies do use these words differently, but they are not interchangeable. The thing I would say that I see as the biggest difference is the product manager owns the product vision, the product strategy, right? All of that kind of upfront work that you really are doing before you're even getting to development, versus a product owner is the person that represents the product vision to the development team. In an agile environment, they're usually embedded in the development team. They sit with the development team. They're part of the scrum calls, right? Versus the product manager can't be at that level, right? Because they have to be doing all of these other things to make the product vision happen.
Same.
Yes, and that was a beautifully succinct answer, and the only thing that I'll add to that maybe is that the product owner kind of came about, that role and that title really came about with the advent of the Agile methodology,
Right.
because it is a specific role within Agile.
Because developers kept coming to product managers' desks and asking questions like, what shade of gray would you like that checkbox to be? And I'm like, I ain't got time for that.
What checkbox? Right. We are at Elevon. The delineation is almost as close. It is an agile governed shop, but a product owner generally sits in the tech ecosphere, whereas the product manager generally sits up against the business lines and the commercial delivery.
More outward facing versus inward facing. Yeah. Other questions? Okay, so
brand market.
the question, just to repeat that for those of you that might not have heard it, is if you didn't come from an engineering background and you're in product management, how do you learn enough of that and interact with the engineering team to gain credibility with that team?
I was a brand marketer before I went into technology, and I organically grew into being a tech leader and dealing with engineers, dev teams, and stuff like that. To earn their trust, they're fickle people. Just let me be clear. Developers are fickle people. And so I sat in the dev shop for 5 years. I sat in what we call the developer pit. I own my own Nerf gun. It's being on their level and being empathetic about the work that they do and helping them drive clear. So you talk it's sweat equity. It is time. It's building relationships with people who don't have the same charismatic compass as somebody who's not a developer. They're very specific, detailed people, all of them. And so I think you really just have to put the time in with them at a personal level, and sitting with them, like not separated from them, really, really helps, because you get to see firsthand and showing interest. I mean, I've just recently moved out of the dev shop, and it does not serve me well, because I can see when roadmaps and releases aren't coming, they're not going to be on time. And now that I've moved to another business, I'm like, does anybody know when the next, is it coming? What's happening? So I think it's sweat equity. I think it's time. And I think that the interest in a specific type of technology organically grows over time.
And Alejandra, I wonder if you might have anything to add with that, since you came from an engineering background, if there are thoughts that you have on that subject.
Well, so it was, I guess, a little bit easier for me because I do understand, like, I've done that before. But still, right? Like, even if you have done development before, it comes down to being able to inspire people. Like, people only follow a good vision, right? So in my case, like, I've done that before. So when I lead teams, it's like, I know what it takes, right? Like, I've gone through development before. So I think it's just a little bit easier. But I think and many of you mentioned that before, it comes down to relationships as well, right? Like, people work with people that they like, and people do amazing things for people that they like, you know? So that's, it's building a good team.
True.
Yeah.
I would say if you're not coming to it from a technical background, it can be easier to have a subject matter expertise, because it's about building that trust, right? So if they're not seeing you as someone that they trust because they know you understand the technology side, if there's something else, for me, it was in banking. I was an AAP, right? I know everything about these payments. So, it makes sense that we should lean on you as a product person, because you understand what it needs to be. You understand, and I don't, I'm a developer. So tell me what this needs to look like, right? Find something that connects, and that you can build that trust over, whether it's an expertise or a subject matter, that you really know and can speak to. I think also I would say that the technology side, if you are tech savvy or you come from an engineering background, can actually disservice you as well. I actually wrote all of the code for the first products that I launched at the bank that I originally worked at myself. So the challenge you have there is, don't ever, if you are someone that comes from engineering, you have to be careful, I think, to not fall in that you do know what it takes. And so then you're prone to want to argue, right? When someone says this is going to take 48, hours or 27, points in Agile or whatever, right? Like, that you want to be like, well, I could do it in 2. Like, I don't know what your problem is. Like, it shouldn't take that, right? So either way, I think there's a challenge. But if you don't have the tech side, I think it's finding the connection point, like we're saying here.
And I think also it's important to remember that developers have the role of developer because they want to develop. And so your job as the product manager and product owner, regardless of how you're interfacing with them, is to break it down so they understand what they're building and continue to keep them motivated by answering why, because they always like that too. But really, what they're building, if you can articulate that, they don't expect you to speak code.
Right.
They expect you to be able to lay out for them what they're going to do next, because they're really excited to work on what they're working on and finish it, and build their trust by making sure that if they build what you asked for, you get it to market. And it doesn't sit on the shelf, because nothing frustrates them more than what you asked them to build sitting on the shelf.
Cookies.
That's where you lose trust. And cookies do generally work very well.
Yeah.
Cookies work.
I think the biggest breakthrough that I personally had with engineering team was when I scheduled meetings with them to go over the user personas, because that seemed like incredibly enlightening to them to understand, from a product manager's perspective, who's using this product and how and why. And for them to see that was, I think, really enlightening for them, and kind of gave me credibility of being the market person with the market knowledge. So, other questions? Yeah.
Well, as somebody who does go to market, you're my grace and my holy grail. Like, if I don't have a project manager attached to my business when it's going out the door, it is I won't touch it, Because I have so much respect for somebody that can organize monkeys and documents and people all day long.
What kind of products are you building? I will. Sorry, I didn't repeat that question. So for the recording, I will repeat it. So what's the difference between a product manager and a project manager? And agreed. I think all product managers, to your point, are in love with their project managers. But I think from a functional standpoint, there are definitely distinct different functions that each does in, say, a rollout or in a product launch. And anyone want to speak to this specific?
Yeah, I would, when I've had to kind of explain that to someone before, I kind of lay it out as that, because they have the same initials, right? So people think a PM is a PM no matter what it really means. Right, so the project manager is there for the project. That could be a rollout, it could be a launch, it could be anything, right? You can have a project to do the development. It really depends on your organization what you consider the project to be, but they're there through the scope of the project and to make sure that's successful. And yes, herd the cats, capture, cage the monkeys. I don't know, like all of the things that have to happen, right, to make this thing work. Versus the product manager, you're attached to the product, right, which may span broader than the project, right? It may have a whole life cycle. The project's just to get it through launch, and you're going to be with the product for its entire product life cycle, right? When you gave birth to it, you're already thinking about the day you have to put it in the grave, right? It should be all part of your plan. But the project manager doesn't necessarily have to be a part of all of that. They have a different goal. But you absolutely need them. I have some amazing project managers. My husband calls mine my program manager, my work wife, because we're on either one cell phone. You will find us together.
And project management has its own set of methodologies, just as product management does. So the PMBOK, the product manager's book of knowledge, and there are project management certifications that really, I think, focus on the methodology of managing projects, managing people, managing resources, managing budgets, and all of the estimating of timelines and things like that. I think are a skill set that is unique to project managers.
I will say that having a project manager who is tech savvy or who understands my product and my business lines end to end is far more gratifying than just having somebody assign me a PM out of an EPO. Like it's a lot more gratifying when our project managers are integrated to the product business or they're particularly aligned to product. It's a much more enlightening experience because you have a wingman, so to speak.
Any other thoughts, Denise, or any thoughts on that?
I think that you're hearing a lot about the relationship. So, the product leader is going to, in many companies, will have full P&L responsibility, right? We have to know the market, the commercialization value, why we're bringing it to market, and why the channel is important that we chose or not chose, and how to course correct, like you said, as we learn to make changes and make sure we're driving profit, right? If you want to be in and around product and maybe not have a full P&L responsibility, the project management role is really fantastic because I agree with Stacy. We love our project managers when they help us get these things done. It's so much to drive the vision and evangelize the solution, and don't forget that there is a channel and that there is a profit or an expense, cost of goods sold baked into what you're doing. But when your project manager can partner with you, you're a real team, and that project manager gets to talk to all the different parts of the company as well, gets to be specific, understands those technical deliverables, and just pulls it together. So it's a great team effort to really bring something through. And as a project manager, if you stay close to a product leader, you can actually go through 4, 5, 6 different projects through that life cycle and see all different phases and learn all different things along the way.
Other questions? Okay, so the question is there a path for someone outside of an organization to get into product management? And, the observation being that many of us moved into product management being within a company. And so you're saying, can you move directly into product management, moving to a new organization is the question. And so, Denise, I'll start with you since one of your comments triggered her to ask this.
I think it's not as easy. I think if there were a project role in a product team in a larger company, that would be a really good type of position to see, especially when a company is just building some of their product lines. They usually don't have enough project management expertise or hands. So that's a great way to get in. If you're really experienced in project management in a firm or an industry where you have a lot of subject matter expertise, you might have a role to be able to come into a product role. Maybe not exactly at the same level, but that could help a little bit as well. So if you've got a deep knowledge in an industry, you tend to learn the workings, you tend to learn about the markets and the profitability and things like that.
I know when I'm hiring commercial product managers, I'm looking for people who have strong project skills, who have come from a project management background. I'm also looking for somebody who may have worked previously, who has worked in a consumer goods or a CPG type of organization, somewhere where there's a product output. I'm looking for somebody who may have worked at a SaaS organization or stuff like that. So I do think that your resume needs to also resonate with people who are hiring full-bodied type of employees. Like I just did a hiring spree not so long ago, and I had to tell people, you're a product person. You're going to be great at this. And they were like, what? No. I'm like, no, you're going to do great. And one of them's here, like it just, you're going to be great at this. And it's having people get eyes on your resume and being able to share with them some of the experiences of where you've worked, because often good product managers come through absorption. So if you've worked and lived in another product-led organization as opposed to a service or customer-led organization, there's a lot of talent and skill that you absorb over the way they construct projects in that company. And that really can support a product-led company.
I would just add to that and say that the SME angle, like we were talking about earlier, and what you're kind of hitting on there as well, if there's, what were you a project manager for, right? Is there a specific industry or product type or something like that you have led projects for, and that can be your connecting point. And don't look past that and think that I shouldn't apply for like a product owner job or something in that space if you have something that you can speak to there, because that can be more compelling along with your expertise that you do have than somebody else that, may appear, oh, well, they've always dealt with retail products, so they know exactly what this is about, right? That could be the real piece. It's really about resonating with the person who has the position, right?
And if you're a PMP, you should take the 3-day course to be a Scrum leader, because those two things tied together with some experience could get you in an agile governed organization, which would give you product development and just a causeway into being close to product managers. And a natural leap and fit often is a Scrum master into a product owner, into a product manager, into a product leader.
Yeah.
Alejandra, did you have some thoughts on that too?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that perhaps if you're willing to work for a smaller company, you might want to try that. Usually in the smaller companies, they don't have, a product owner, a product manager, a program manager. They usually have less roles, so that might be a way to start and learn some skills. But smaller companies usually they just have like one person who's actually doing all of that. That's right. Yeah, which is a great way to learn things, because you're just touching so many different roles.
Points. Oh, that's all the time we have. We've been given the hook. So thank you again to our great panel. So please join me in thanking them.
Oh my gosh, what an amazing panel of product managers. Thank you, Gloria. Alexandria, am I pronouncing that right?
Alejandra.
Alejandra is beautiful. Hallie, Stacy, Denise, and Kevin, y'all were fabulous. We love this.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.
So Join us next month, November 8th, for the predictions for workplace equality for women. Invite your friends. Bring all the fabulous women. Let's change networking once and for all and make it all women. And again, LinkedIn. We love you, LinkedIn. We love you, Eris. Back there, the ladies. And don't forget to follow us on our social media handles, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. And we hope to see you next month. Janine, you did a fabulous job. And again, what a fabulous panel. Thank you so much for attending.